Good morning and welcome to the City of Chester Committee Meeting for Public Safety on today, Monday, March 2nd, 2026. Sixes and eights are looking very similar. It must need an upgrade to the glasses. Roll call, please.
Is Davis on the phone?
No.
He had said he was going to call in, but
Okay, all right. So Councilwoman West,
present.
Mayor Roots,
And I'm present. We'll make a motion to approve minutes
So moved.
and seconded. All those in favor
Aye.
indicate aye with one edit. The word pay needs to be included on one of the sentences, but our clerk is aware of where that should be inserted. The sentence states in the minutes, how does a person their ticket? So it should read, how does a person pay their ticket? Referring to parking tickets from way back on April 15th. Been a while since we met. Is there any public comment on agenda items only? If so, come to the microphone in front of me. Seeing none, we'll keep moving. Public Safety Committee will hear a presentation from Commissioner Shirley and Director Tarafa. Did I say that right? Thank you. On updating the city's civil service rules and regulations regarding the hiring of uniformed personnel.
Morning, Mayor, Councilwoman West. Thank you for having me. We're joined here today by Gail Brown, who is a member of the Civil Service Commission. Unfortunately, Rick Dennis and Martha Newman had other conflicting issues. Otherwise, they would be here in support. So as you're aware, we're a third-class city, which we're required to hire under uniform personnel under a third-class city code. Last year, we updated the ordinance that, the city ordinance that covers the hiring of personnel. That was the first step. The second step was to revise the civil service rules and regulations, which cover the hiring of uniform personnel. We've met with the Civil Service Commission, and we've gone through those updated rules and regulations, and we're here to present them for you now. As you're aware, the last time and in your packet, the city adopted civil service rules and regulations was 1991 and 1993. Those rules and regulations are woefully outdated, so we made sure that these updated rules meet all federal, state, and local laws.
Do us a favor, if you're referring to something in our packet, just show it to us so we.
Oh,
make
my
sure.
apologies. I don't have the old one.
Okay.
It should be, looking at the packet, it was at the back. And since Councilman Davis isn't here, I'm going to steal
Yeah,
his.
good.
So if you go to the, that didn't work out well. So past page 25 of the draft rules, you will see an old photocopy of a resolution. And that resolution was from 1990 that covered the paid firemen's civil service rules and regulations. And then if you go back several pages, you'll see another resolution effective in 1993, which handled the civil service rules and regulations for police. So those are the last two civil service rules that were adopted by resolution by mayor and council. So from 1990 and 1993. They are basically the same for police and fire. I think there are some small differences, but if you kind of flip through, and I'll just, before I put my foot in my mouth. So, for instance, in section 303, and I'll preface this by, we do not follow these rules to do hiring, okay? If we did, we'd be in a world of lawsuits. We do follow best practices for the hiring of uniformed personnel. The only issue here is that we are required to follow the civil service rules and regulations. So because we're not following, it could be an issue. But if you look in section 303 of either one of those rules, the old rules, it says every male eligible for the position. It's obviously wrong on so many levels. If you flip through a couple pages more, there are age and height requirements and weight requirements. So there's multiple issues. Equal, Jeanette Kirkney, EEOC, or not EEOC? Yeah, EEOC violations here. So again, not that we're hiring using these rules. We are hiring per federal, state, and local law, but our rules have to be updated to reflect that. Were there any questions on the?
What you're saying is that I see in 303 item D, that it says the qualifications for female applicants, you're saying you can't do female, male, it has to be that way for all of them? Because that's discriminating? Okay.
Yes.
And then also the weight and requirements, chest and all like that.
Yeah. Yeah, height requirements, age requirements, like you cannot discriminate hiring someone versus age. To be honest with you, the Philadelphia Fire Academy that I went through, that the city put me through, the only reason that fire academy had to take place was because at the time there were several people who had taken the test, passed all the physical agility tests. They did everything that was required of them, and the city refused to hire them because of their age. And they actually took the city of Philadelphia to court, and the court said, no, sorry, like they've met all the expectations. You cannot discriminate someone based on their age. So it's the same kind of applies here. So it's just our rules, we need to update our rules to reflect what it is that we're actually doing, because we're required to hire by the rules per state law, per city ordinance. So the issue that we find ourselves at now is, even though we are hiring based on all the correct federal, state, and local laws, if I were to take a test and not pass, I could legitimately have a complaint saying, well, what are your rules? What are the civil service rules and regulations? And there are these ones from 1990. And the city could say, well, we're not going to hire off those because they violate all kind of laws. And I could say, well, state law says you're required to hire off these rules. So even though these rules violate state law or federal and state law, because third-class city codes, we have to follow the rules. We don't want to leave any type of room for a list to be thrown out because of this. What's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here. Compliance, but just this. I don't want to say it's caveat, but this technicality is the word I'm looking for.
So in essence, our old rules that we're following currently need to be updated, and we have to make sure that they're in compliance with state law.
Correct. Correct. And that's what we've done with the updated civil service rules and regulations. And it's not like we pulled these things out of the thin air. We spoke with other third-class cities throughout the Commonwealth. We've got examples from them, and we put them together to see, and again, after discussion with the Civil Service Commission, with the police commissioner, with human resources, who has a lot of the knowledge with hiring and the laws that surround employment. And this was also ran through a legal review by legal secretary or legal counsel, and they did have a couple small tweaks, but overall they just said that they don't see any issues with these rules and regulations. So now that we've done all our homework, we can present it to you, because the final part of adopting these new civil service rules and regulations is a resolution by mayor and council.
Testing.
All right, we're back. Yeah, so even though we put these rules together, the final piece of it, and again, this comes from third-class city code, it comes from our very own city ordinances, is that these rules need to be adopted by mayor and council. Obviously, I know that you guys aren't going to vote on anything unless you know what it is that you're voting on, so we're here today to basically discuss the rules and regulations. I did email these out to you. I don't know if you guys have had time to read through them and come up with any questions on any of the contents of the rules and regulations. If you do, I'd be happy to address those questions. Or if you would like to, we can kind of go through it page by page, and I can kind of just explain everything, not necessarily in great detail, but detail enough that you should feel comfortable with what it is that we're conveying here. So I leave it up to you as to how you would like to proceed with that.
I have a question.
Well, I'll admit to have not read this, so I will, I'd like to take this time for you to tell me why you put it in the form that it's in, what information makes it proper and legal now, and by the time we get to resolution time, we'll make sure that all of us on council will go through this. If we have additional questions, we'll let you know.
Most definitely, and my pleasure. I prepared to do that, so it's not a problem whatsoever. So I'm sorry.
Do you still have a question?
And mayor and council, it said in 307, item D, mayor and council should sit as the civil service commission for the purpose of interviewing each of the applicants who attained a passing grade of 60% in the written exam. The interview shall constitute 50%. My question, mayor and council no longer sits as the civil service board.
That's correct.
The new one.
That is correct. And what I will say is that even in the city charter, and I can dig up the language for you, mayor and council are not allowed, and even any employee of the city is not allowed to sit on the civil service board. It has to be members of the public.
Been doing it for years.
I understand we've been doing it for years, but
I mean, the rules are the rules, but I'm just saying, it's interesting how for years, that's what we did,
well, it is interesting that we did, and I'll say this, there's a lot of things the city was doing right, and there's a lot of things the city was doing wrong. And what we're trying to do now is, do as best we can to do everything correctly, as prescribed by law. Okay?
You had mentioned that several people have reviewed this. I remember the receiver had paused an earlier presentation. They've received it as well, right?
The receivers team has received it. The receivers legal counsel, Ballard Spar, is it?
No.
Campbell Durant. I don't know. There's so many law firms out there. Campbell Durant, the law firm Campbell Durant, reviewed it from a city legal point of view. I know it was to the solicitor's office. There was no comment there. So it's been through several layers of vetting.
All right, let's go.
All right, starting off. Okay, so you'll take a look at page 2. Okay, just general provisions. This is pertaining, and when I say civil service board, I like to use board and commission interchangeably. The way it's actually set up in the city home rule charter and the ordinances, we have a civil service commission, but commission and board I'm going to be using interchangeably just because it's just a general term. But Rule 1 is the authority. It basically just says, hey, look, the Civil Service Commission has the authority to create rules, and we derive our authority from Home Rule Charter, from the city's ordinance, as well as third-class city code. Rule number 2 is that the city of Chester is an equal opportunity employer, so we do not discriminate on there's no discrimination when we comes to our hiring, whether it be and it's named out there: race, color, religion, belief, national, social, or ethnic origin. So just everything that's covered under federal law. And rule number 3 under general provisions is, hey, if we ever want to change these rules and regulations as a Civil Service Commission, this is how we do it, or that we're allowed to do it, and by calling a meeting. So those are just the general provisions that basically how the board the authority that the board has. Part 2, which are just definitions. So anytime you see this this word anywhere in the rules, rather than spell out the entire thing, we just use the definition. Yes, sir.
You gave us the resolutions for fire and police from the past. They were separate.
Yes.
Is this a comprehensive one for both?
This
fire
is a
and
comprehensive one that covers both police and fire.
Okay.
And the beautiful thing is that even though this document's 25 pages long, and we're going to go over the police section first, the police and fire rules and regulations basically mirror each other. They're the exact same except for like 2 or 3 sections, which we will go over,
Okay.
where those differences are at.
Who is the Civil Service?
The Civil Service Commission, we're joined here by Gail Brown, so she's one of the 3 members of the Civil Service Commission. Martha Newman, she was not able to be here, as well as Rick Dennis. There's also 2 alternate members, which is Al Jacobs, former Councilman Al Jacobs, and the 5th name is escaping me. Justin, could you look that up for me? It's a former, I believe he's a former firefighter. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, though.
Is it a board of 3 and 2 alternates?
It's a board of 3 and 2 alternates, correct. All right.
And what do they do again?
So the role of the Civil Service Commission, Joseph Morris is the 5th one. The role of the Civil Service Commission is to do, there's the main role of the Civil Service Commission is to create the rules and regulations that govern the hiring of police and fire. That's their main mission, okay? Once they create those rules and regulations and once they're adopted by mayor and council, it's the city's job to basically carry out those rules. Okay, so it's much like mayor and council. You guys say, hey, I want to see, the streets paved. You task that to Public Works, to Andrew, and Andrew sees it out. In the same way that the Civil Service says, hey, we want to hire police and firefighters, and this is how we want you to do it. And then you leave it to the Human Resources Department of the city to carry out the hiring of those police and firefighters. Now, the Civil Service Commission does play a role in 2 circumstances, and they are defined here in the rules. So let's just say that I happen to apply to be a firefighter, and for some reason there's something on my application, or there's something in my past that disqualifies me, okay? If the city turns around and just says, sorry, you're not eligible to apply here, I can take that and say, well, I want to appeal that decision. So I can, write a letter of appeal to the Civil Service Commission, and then the Civil Service Commission will actually hear my side of the case. And the Civil Service Commission will determine whether or not the city followed the rules and regulations or they didn't. So if it's found that the city didn't follow the rules and regulations as it comes to my application, well, they can basically say, yes, you are allowed to apply. All right?
So the applicant can appeal.
Yes, the applicant can appeal. Yep. Now, the second part of the role that the Civil Service Commission would be involved in is, okay, I got hired as a firefighter, and I got promoted to a captain, and I happened to do something on the job that was against the department policy, and I'm disciplined for it, or I'm demoted for it, or I'm even fired for it, okay? At that point, I, as an employee, have two options. I can grieve that disciplinary action through the union, through the collective bargaining agreement, okay? Or I can appeal to the Civil Service Commission, okay? I can't do both. I can only do one. All right. So yes, yeah, you can only do one. It's not like double jeopardy. So depending on if I choose to appeal my case before the Civil Service Commission, again, they would have to sit down. I would present my case. They would look at city policy, you know, the rules and regulations of the department, and determine whether or not it was a justified disciplinary action. So those are really the three main functions of the Civil Service Commission. They're three main jobs to do.
And they're no longer involved in the testing?
No, they don't need to be involved in the testing. So, and we'll talk about that. We're actually going to be updating, in today's day and age, with technology, we have the ability to do computer-generated tests that are graded automatically. There's no room for error. You know, you get the results right away. There's, on the back end, they can kind of do some analysis where it's just like, hey, everyone got this question wrong. It was probably a poorly worded question. Maybe we throw this question out. So
there's no manual figuring
there's no manual figuring out anymore or anything like that. It's all done.
Okay.
So, all good? Okay. So, any questions though on part 2 with definitions? No. All right. And I brought a big bottle of water today because I know I'm gonna be needing to wet my whistle a couple times. Okay. So part 3 deals with the commission itself, and this is probably something that also hasn't been done, but within Pennsylvania state law, anyone who is involved with the Civil Service Commission is actually supposed to take an oath of office. So they need to take an oath of office, and that just, Rule 1 defines, hey, I need to take an oath of office. Rule 2 are the duties, all right? So the chairperson or the vice chairperson, they're basically going to preside over the meetings, and the secretary shall, carry out any type of correspondence. But it just outlines the responsibilities of the people within the Civil Service Commission, their titles and what they're to do. Section 3, as you can see, there's also some things highlighted in yellow. Those were some, how do I say this, grammatical / cleaner language that was recommended by legal. So we've just changed them. But hey, if the alternate members need to get involved, it kind of spells out how the alternate members interact on the commission.
And there's training for the commission?
I don't know if I say there's training for it, and in the next section, it kind of spells out how they're to conduct their meetings. So, like, you guys conduct, old business, new business. It's kind of the same thing. They're going to be following Robert's rules for the conducting of meetings. But
I'm talking about as far as what they're expected to do. You said that they are to develop policy and.
No, they don't develop any policy. They just write the rules and regulations.
Sorry, rules and regulations.
Yep. And that's why we've actually been meeting with them, or I should say we've met with them, and we've talked this through, and I've kind of explained, because some of them were just like, wow, we never realized that this was actually how things were supposed to work.
Yeah, because it was done differently.
Yeah. And to your point, it's always been done a certain way, and once you explain it, and that's why unfortunately, even though the third-class city code is written the way that it is, it takes more than just three people from the public to put together rules and regulations that are compliant with legal and human resource type laws, and that's why we've kind of come together as a collaborative to get this done. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's technically their responsibility to create these rules and regulations. But as far as training, we talked it through them. If they ever wanted to have an amendment or anything they need to do here, we'd be happy to kind of talk them through as the actual process. Because realistically, moving forward, what should happen moving forward is that the 3 members of the Civil Service Commission should be sitting up there, and if I, as the fire commissioner, wanted to change part of the rules, I would have to be like, hey, here's a part of the rule, this is why I think it should be changed. I'd have to be pleading my case to them, and then they would determine, all right, we're going to change this rule, and then they in turn would come down here and present to you and mayor and council. So that's the steps that it actually works, but we're all together in on this. So moving on, Rule 3 is just meetings. And again, how to call a meeting to order, how much time you need in order for a meeting to be called. Rule 4 is a quorum, how many people need to be here. So just like this committee right here, you have to have 2 out of the 3 committee members. You have to have a quorum.
Who does the notification, city clerk?
It is, it can be held either at the call of the chairperson or the call of 2 members of the commission. So prior to each meeting, there shall be at least 24 hours of notification given to each member of the commission. No rule or regulation of the commission shall be adopted without prior approval of mayor and council, except where otherwise provided in the rules. And the commission will have the discretion to determine whether meetings shall be open to the public when not specifically regulated by existing law. So I guess to answer your question, it depends on whether or not it's going to be open to the public. I think if it's going to be open to the public, it would have to follow the same timeline as these types of committee meetings.
They don't all have to be open.
They don't all have to be open to the public, correct?
Correct.
Yep. Okay. Already talked about the quorum, the rules of order for the meeting. Again, these are Robert's rules, so this is just the way that the meeting will be, the order in which the meeting will be conducted, kind of like what we're doing right now. Call to order, roll call, previous minutes, reports, unfinished business. Yeah, so the agenda, the secretary is going to prepare the agenda for the meeting. Meeting minutes, and again, the commission shall keep a copy of the meeting for at least 10 years, and I believe that's records retention law. And that's it for the everything that really governs the commission itself. Any questions on any of that? No? Okay, so Part 4, which we're moving into, rules governing the appointment and promotion of police officers. And I will preface this that by right now, these rules only contain rules for the hiring of police and firefighters. There are no rules in here for the promotion of police and firefighters. That will come later, and the reason that they're not in here right now is because I know, at least for the fire department, and I can ask the commissioner, the process for promotions is outlined in the collective bargaining agreement. Yep. So we have to follow the rules that have been negotiated between the city and the collective bargaining agreement. All right. So it's going to be a lot easier because they're already spelled out, but just for the fact that we have to do the hiring of police and firefighters, and these rules are so outdated, we focus primarily on just getting the hiring rules done. We'll come back and add those later, and again, that will be something that we will assist the commission with, and it will be again presented to you, mayor and council, for adoption. But it'll be a much easier process. All right, so. For applications and qualifications, all right, it basically spells out that the commission, and this is the same, police and fire are the same except for some certain sections that I will identify. Other than that, they're mirrored. But basically, civil service is enacting these rules so that all applicants receive equal treatment in the application process, all right? This basically spells out how applications are going to be secured. So the Human Resources Department will basically notify that, hey, there's a testing process. We're going to be hiring for police and firefighters. Here's the application. We're going to make it public in several different ways, and it's going to be applicants will be given at least 30 days to apply. So we're not saying that we can't put an application open period for 2 months, but there'll at least be 30 days for someone to apply. And again, in order for the application to be considered, there are a couple things that need to be accompanying the application, again, check or money order for the application, and again, high school diploma or graduate equivalency diploma, military for a DD 214 for military service, and I-9, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is your authorization. You're legally allowed to work within the United States. And a current valid motor vehicle operator's license. Both police and fire have to be able to operate vehicles. General qualifications, citizen of the United States or eligible to work in the United States. For police, it's 21 years of older, and I believe that's due to the laws surrounding police officers. You have to be at least 21 years of age. For firefighters, it's 18 years because there's no age requirement other than you have to be a legal adult. So that's the one area where it's different between police and fire. Valid motor vehicle operator's license, and shall be of good moral character and shall not engage in conduct inconsistent with the standards of conduct expected of a police officer. Moving on, there's some automatic eligibility disqualifications. All right. So basically, if an applicant has one or more of the following disqualifications, they could be basically initially disqualified that, hey, you're not going to move on in the testing process. So again, it's basically not able to establish preliminary requirements or has not filled all of the documents listed. So, hey, you know, I don't have an I-9 or I don't have a GED. If you were dishonorably discharged from any branch of the military, if you failed to register with the Selective Service System, if you've intentionally falsified, omitted, concealed, or misrepresented any material information during any portion of the current or any prior employment application, you know, for the position. I don't necessarily know if I want to read each one of these line by line. I can let you guys kind of go through them, but these are all just things that, you know, between the Civil Service Commission, the Legal Department, Human Resource Department, Police Department, Fire Department, that, you know, hey, we've seen these things, and that's just not really the type of candidate we would want to consider for employment. Yes, sir.
It says failed to register with the Selective Service System, meaning,
The draft.
right, I got that part. So for the gentlemen or young men, they all have to register, or?
I believe it's state law for both men and women. Or federal law, yeah. Or just men. Okay, just men right now.
I'm sorry, say that again. I'm sorry.
It's federal law that all men are required to
what?
register with the
Register.
Selective Service. I don't make the rules. I just live by them.
I'm sorry, continue. I'm just processing all that. I want to just wonder when did that happen? Because I know when I was doing civil service, some of the gentlemen did not. And I know in the past, like 5 years ago when I graduated from high school, I know they were signing up, but then I didn't know if they had got away from that. So I just learned something new today.
Yep.
So,
If you do not register, it makes you ineligible for certain government.
so you don't have to, but if you didn't, you won't be able to apply for this. Okay. I learned something new today.
If they find it in,
And I'm a believer in second chances, and there are some of our people here who have, or in other areas too, who have had minor offenses, you know, I'm excluding like the marijuana distribution and all that, you know, you have 1 through 7. But for anything that is minor, like say a young person who has had an incident with the law, but not as serious as these, I mean, is there an opportunity for them to?
There is, and that's actually why we spell out what it is that is a disqualifier. So anything else that's not a disqualifier, we're not going to consider it. So I mean, like, just even to your point, you know, rule number 1, use of marijuana within 1 year. preceding the application date. Okay, so I'm 19 years old, fresh out of school, I decide to, smoke some marijuana with my friends, and, I get busted for it, and it's on my record, and, I'm 26 now, I'm more mature, I've grown up. Yeah, even though it's still on my record. Well, look, you were a young kid. You made a mistake. We are about second chances. Now, if I murdered someone, that's a different story. Of course. But no, we believe in second chances as well. We don't believe that everything that you do as a young adult should be held against you moving forward. But for these are more serious matters that. Again, just best practice and the norm is for these things. So in section I for driving under the influence of alcohol, for the police department, it's if you have one DUI conviction, that's their hard line. For the fire department, it's actually 2 DUI convictions, but they have to be a certain amount of time apart.
Right.
So we're fire department's a little more forgiving than police department, but also, when you look at their law enforcement, you know what I mean? So it's a different standard. Not that the fire department's not held to a high standard, but police is just a little bit higher, just because they are the law.
Medical marijuana.
It's a very interesting question that you have there, and it's actually a discussion that has been talked about ever since medical marijuana came around. For any type of job that is a dangerous type job, it prohibits you from using medical marijuana. So, and there's actually there was a case where it was a city where a firefighter had a medical marijuana card, was tested, came back positive, he was terminated. They grieved his termination, saying it's medical marijuana, and the arbitrator actually ruled in favor of the city, saying, no, sorry, like, if you have a medical condition that requires medical marijuana, that's one thing, but you work in a high stress, high stakes, extremely dangerous job. You are not, by state law, you're not allowed to have a medical marijuana card if you have one of those jobs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And kind of just moving along. Again, these are just any type of things that are serious in nature that would disqualify you. Penalty for false statements. And again, it's just basically, look, if you falsify any part of your application, whether it's you lie about it, you try and conceal something, you admit it, your application is going to be invalid, and basically you're not going to be able to apply. And it's also the point too where it's if you lied on an application, we don't really want to consider you for next time. So it basically you forfeit your right to apply in the future with the city of Chester. Okay, so examinations and gradings, and this is the way that the police department as well as the fire department now is going to be the process that they're going to be following is so the very first start is you have to apply. Once you submit your application, we're going to make sure you meet all the requirements of the application. So now we're going to give you a physical agility test. All right, for the police department and even for the fire department, we're going to let those applicants know, hey, you have at least 14. We're going to give you at least 14 days notification before the physical agility test. Obviously, we're going to give as much time as possible. If we know it's going to be in 30 days, we'll do 30 days. But at the very bare minimum, we have to do at least 2 weeks' notice. For the police department, it just kind of spells out, hey, look, this is the physical agility test. And They go off of the Municipal Police Officers and Training Commission's entrance fitness test, and based on their, I believe it's age and gender. Yep, based on their age and gender, it's, hey, this is how many push-ups and sit-ups you have to do. And they're tested in the 4 categories of sit-ups, push-ups, a 300-meter run, and a 1.5 miles. And it basically spells out here, look, you have to do this. The entire physical agility test has to be done within 2 hours, and you get a minimum rest time of 5 minutes between events. And if you, I would say, though, if you do have any other questions on the physical agility test, I'm probably going to defer to Commissioner Blackwell, because I don't really know that much about it.
Because I have a question about, I know that in the first part of the document, it says that you're not allowed to discriminate, you know, against certain things, and I think weight is a part of it. What happens when you get someone who is overweight and maybe, you know, really overweight, you know? And how do you handle that as far as the agility test? Because you've already said that you can't discriminate. So once they get to the agility test, and then
So
Then
they're
what?
held to the same test as everybody else. They're still held based on their age and gender. They're held to the same standard.
so they still have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an opportunity for maybe getting some additional time? And maybe that wouldn't be fair to the other
No.
applicants? Okay, I just wanted to ask.
No, unfortunately, it is not. With most of those events, they are also timed.
Mhm.
So you have a certain amount of time to get these events done. If you don't, it's pass or fail.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And just also, too, we don't discriminate on applications. However, you do need to meet the standard. So it's not necessarily we're discriminating against them from applying. It's just saying, like, look, we expect you to be able to perform at this level, because we're in the life-saving business, police and fire. So we need you to do that. And these tests, like MOPEC and the fire physical agility tests that we have outlined, these are tests that are generated from national studies that, hey, look, you know, these standards can be met, you know, by all ages and sexes, but they have to possess a level of physical fitness in order to do that. So it's not that it's not achievable, but it's not everyone can achieve it if, you know, they're not able to.
So it's not that you're discriminating, as you said in the first part of the document, you can't, but there are certain requirements that one has to meet
Yes.
regardless.
Yes.
Okay.
So once an applicant has passed a physical agility test, the Human Resources does a background check on them. And there's a couple ways that we do background checks, which, you know, can include but not limited to fingerprints through the FBI, criminal history check. And again, these are things that we already are doing. It's just we're now spelling it out. You know, interviews with people, you know, hey, you know Joe Schmo, is he a good guy? You know, investigations of the applicant's driving record. You know, if they said, hey, I don't have any, you know, DUIs, but then we run their driving record and they have, you know, 15 DUIs, well, not only did you lie to us on the application, but, you know, you got 15 DUIs, we can't do it. But we just have to basically verify all that. So that's all the background checks. So again, application, physical agility test, background check. If they are able to pass the background check, they will go through and sit for a cognitive test to make sure that, okay, we know you're physically capable of doing this, but do you also possess the cognitive ability to perform at this job? And again, these tests that are being used are national test centers that have, you know, done tests, or I should say scientifically researched that, hey, a person with the right cognitive ability to serve as a police officer or firefighter, will be able to pass these types of tests. And the other thing too is that these tests, whether you're a police officer or a firefighter already, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have any type of special knowledge or skill to pass these tests. It's, basically, if I were to, as an example of one, if I were to show you a city map of, a bunch of streets, and some of these streets are one way this way, some streets are one way that way, some are two-way streets, and you have an incident here and you're here, what's the most direct route? So you just kind of have to think through, okay, what's the quickest way to get there? So there's those types of problem-solving type questions.
I have to ask this question while
Certainly.
I'm thinking about it. I don't want to forget it.
No.
Mayor and council, we're working on our ethics policy and hope to get it passed sometime soon. So are there separate policies for police and fire? I mean, do you follow the city's ethics policy?
So what I will say is just that, Jeanette might have to back me up on this, but for the fire department and even for the police department, we have policies in place on like the conduct of firefighters. And if there are violations of this conduct, that would come with disciplinary action up to including dismissal. So we are held to a standard, whether, how should I say this? It's the ethics, I should say the resolution, the ethics that you guys are going to be, it's an oath, correct, or ethics policy? The policy that you guys are going to be following as politicians, it might not necessarily apply to the police or fire department so much as the police and fire ethics might not necessarily apply to you. It's
not just for politicians, it's for the employees.
It's for the entire city?
To answer your question, Councilwoman, anything not covered by their current conduct policies that is covered by the ethics policy, they would also have to follow that as well.
Okay.
Same as with collective bargaining. So we have certain rules that are outlined in collective bargaining. It's not there, it's whatever the city policy is.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so they're going to need to pass a cognitive exam, okay? And before, with veterans preference, it's just basically you're allowed to get, if you're claiming veterans preference, you're allowed an additional 10 points, provided that you passed the cognitive exam. So like if I get a 60 on my cognitive exam and I'm a veteran, I don't get the 10 points that makes me, get a 70. I actually have to get a 70% before I can get those extra 10 points added. All right, so once they pass the cognitive exam, we move on to interviews, ranking, certification of the eligibility list, and conditional offer employment. So the eligibility list will, and because the physical agility tests and the background checks are pass or fail, there's really no points assigned to them. But the eligibility list will be just based on the highest score of the test. And then overall, when you look at it, so let's just say that I got a 100 on my written test, my cognitive test. I now have 70 points towards my overall score. And the interview, that will account for 30% of my overall score. So again, if I got 100 on my interview, I'll get 30 points there, and I'll have a total of 100 points. Or let's just say I got a 50, I'll only get 15 points. All right, so this just basically breaks out of how the eligibility list is formed, the percentage of the cognitive and interviews, and then the overall final ranking. So once the interviews are done, there's a final ranking, and that will create the list. Now, if there are tying scores, we got two people with the same score, this just kind of breaks out, hey, how do we break that tie? And just it spells out how we break that tie. once everything's been done, Human Resources, Human Resources basically validates and certifies that, hey, this eligibility list is good to go. The eligibility list can be good for 2 years from the date of certification, and this is another part where the commission, if the city says, hey, we want to extend this list for another year, the commission has the authority to say, okay, we can extend this list for 1 more year. Once we say, okay, you know, either the police commissioner or the fire commissioner say, I go to Human Resources and I say, hey, I need to hire 5 firefighters, okay, they're going to look at that list and they'll look at, you know, who the first 5 people are on that list, and they're going to send out conditional offers of employment to those first 5 people. So, hey, look, you're receiving a conditional offer of employment. We need to come in and do a little bit further testing. So at that point, they would move on to drug and alcohol screening. So they would have to go to a doctor's, do the drug and alcohol screening. And again, any type of applicant who tests positive for any of the following drugs will be disqualified. So, you know, if you go to the drug test and you got cocaine in your system, well, sorry, you probably shouldn't have done cocaine last night. So,
I'm not clear on the tie breaking.
sure thing. So, moving back to tie breaking. So, basically, if we have 2 people who have the final score, all right,
You have 2 people with the same score.
yes. So, if you have 2 people that have the same score, okay, their eligibility, let me just read it word for word rather than summarize it. It says, when 2 or more eligible applicants receive the same final weighted score, the order in which the names of such persons shall appear on the eligibility list shall be determined by their respective scores on the part of the examination assigned the greatest weight. So that basically means that the cognitive test, which is 70% of the overall score, that's going to be weighed differently. So if you and I both have the same score, we both have an 80, okay, but I didn't really do good on my written test, but I did really great in my interview. You did awesome on your written test, and you did a good job on your interview, but not as good as me. I'm a salesman. I can light up the room. You know what I mean? You get, because you scored higher on the written test, you're considered above me to break the tie because you did better on the test. All right? Now,
I thought we had the same score.
what's that? Well, no. Like, you can get, so
You can get different scores.
you can get different scores,
I thought
but
you said if we both had 80. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, it's okay. So now let's just say, for whatever reason, okay, and I don't know how that would be the same. So it could be, but basically, if it had to go down to the oral interview, who scored higher there, that's what we would go to. Because again, think of, you know, my veteran preference points, right? So I got veteran preference points, you know what I mean, but which gave me a tying score, but you did a lot better on the interview. Well, yeah, I know you got your veteran preference points, but the interview is now, we look at the overall score of the interview. So I got a 70 on the interview and you got a 90 on the interview, even though overall we still have the same score because we did the same in the test, but because you did better in the oral interview, you get the tiebreaker.
So you're going off the final score, not just scoring off the cognitive test.
Correct.
I'm thinking one way and out the other. Okay.
Yep. No, that's okay. And then basically, like, look, if you and I both got the same written test score, and you and I got both the same oral interview score, and it's a true tie, who applied first? And for as rare as that situation might be, it will come up. I guarantee you. So that's why we have that in place. Any other questions, Councilwoman?
No.
Okay. And again, so moving back to the drug and alcohol screening, again, you can't have certain drugs in your system. Physical examination, you need to meet you at least have to meet a certain, be examined by a doctor and make sure that you're physically fit enough to be one. And some things that come out in these, these physicals is, hey, you have an underlying heart condition that you might have not known about. So we just want to make sure that people who we hire are physically fit. I don't know how I got my job because I don't know if I would have passed it, but after that there's a psychiatric or psychological evaluation, so I say that jokingly. But no, we just want to make sure that the people we hire, because they are high-stress situations, and because of what it is that we deal with on a day in and day out basis, we want to make sure that people are mentally with it. That they're going to be able to handle these types of stresses. And just kind of a side note, and I know Commissioner Blackwell can speak with this as well. One of the leading causes of death among first responders, even our military, is PTSD and suicide, and it's just because we are exposed to some pretty horrific things. We're also exposed to some very, very beautiful things. But we just want to make sure that people are mentally fit in order to do this job, because even the most tough mentally fit people will struggle. So, yep. So that's the psychiatric, psychological.
And when you find that someone has been working for the police or fire, and they were fine when they came in, but then because of maybe some traumatic incidents that they've encountered, and they become psychologically impaired, or PTSD, something like that, you have services
100%. Yes, we do.
that covers that.
Yep,
I
we
know
have.
we do through HR, but
Yep.
Yes, we typically, at the request of either the employee or the commissioners, we will set up services for those individuals with a licensed psychiatric specialist like the city is.
In addition to what the resources that the city has, there are county resources there through the International Association of Firefighters, which is the union that covers the firefighters. They have a program. I'm sure the FOP has a program. Yeah, there's CISM. So there is a lot of support out there. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't think about it. A lot of times some questions were asked, and then our human resources director is answering. Your voice is low, so that it might not pick it up, so it might not even make it to minutes if need be. I'm sorry.
I'll make sure
That
I
would be
pass the
my-
mic.
That would be my apologies too,
Oh,
for
no,
not
no.
bringing it sooner.
Nope. So, all right. So, hey, look, we gave you the conditional letter of employment. You've passed your physical and your psychological, and at that point, hey, you need to complete a career academy for police or fire. The one difference with the police department, and Commissioner, correct me if I'm wrong, but if a candidate already has their Act 120, already has completed the fire or the police certification, they might not necessarily have to go through a training academy. It's pointless for them to go through because, yep. So, and you assign them to a field training officer, correct?
Yes, thank you. I didn't even think
That's okay. Yes, if an officer is already certified, he does not have to go back through the academy, and he'll go directly to field training.
And this is, again, another difference between the police and fire department. So in the Commonwealth here, there's really no requirement to be a firefighter, believe it or not. But there are national standards that the Chester Fire Department follows, and we make sure that our firefighters are trained to that standard. The difference is that we are surrounded by municipalities that have volunteer fire companies, and a lot of people start off in those volunteer companies and they'll get those certifications. That doesn't matter with the city of Chester. We are going to offer anyone, whether you're certified or you're not certified, you will be going through a career academy because, how should I say this? And this is not to cast disparaging comments on anything, but I can be an 18-year-old kid, go through a fire school that I don't know who taught that class. I don't know who did what, and I can still get the certification. we want to make sure that our firefighters are the best trained and prepared. So we coordinate with either the city of Wilmington or the city of Philadelphia to send our firefighters there. My ultimate goal is to actually one day run our own academy. We have firefighters that are trained as instructors. You know, you put it on fire anywhere, it goes out, you know, but rather than them go to Wilmington or Philly and we kind of have to come back and do like a, you know, a little in-service training, like, hey, this is the way we kind of do things here. I would eventually like to run our own academy.
Well, I'm glad to hear about the Career Academy, because I feel that that will put everybody on equal footing, because what happens here is that when we hire from Chester, we hire people who may not have had the opportunity to work at these volunteer fire departments. And so when we get other candidates from other volunteer situations, they come in ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And I've never felt it fair to the ones who had not had that opportunity.
And-
So this Career Academy, anybody can apply? I mean, is there a criteria by which you would be able to participate in Career Academy?
As long as you pass all the steps in the hiring process, we will pay you to attend this Career Academy. Now, if you're going through the Career Academy and you can't figure out how to raise a ladder, like, we will train you, we will teach you how to do it, but at the end of the day, if you can't figure out how to do it, well, you can't pass the academy. But to your point, we do want to give everyone a fair level playing field. It doesn't matter
Right.
what you did outside of here. All right, you've met all the qualifications for the hiring. I don't care how many certifications you have. I don't care how many years experience you had. You're starting from scratch. But you're going to go through our academy and make sure we're basically going to verify it. And again, because it's for the fire department, because of the way that the state law is written, there's really no state laws that says a firefighter has to have certifications A, B, and C.
Now,
Whereas the police
anyone
department
can
doesn't.
apply for the training. I mean, is there, what's the, requirement in order for you to be able to get, let's say I've been a firefighter and I want some additional training so I can qualify for some of these promotions.
So that's a whole different topic that I'd be happy to discuss with you. But as far as, just to talk on it real briefly, but this is just the hiring of firefighters. When you look at through the current fire department, we offer training to everyone.
Okay.
I have to. I can't, because the second I say, hey, I'm going to get this guy trained and not this guy, the union's going to file a grievance against me.
Right.
So everything has to be fair across the board.
Okay.
So, but as far as the hiring process, you're required to go through a career academy.
Okay.
So, all right, and then this is, again, you'll be appointed as a probationary firefighter. Again, that's done through resolution, which you guys are very familiar with. And then for the probationary period, the police department has per their collective bargaining agreement, which we have to follow. It's 1 year. With the fire department, it's 6 months. So that's a little different there. Okay? So aside from the differences that I pointed out between police and fire of what we just went over, everything you'll see in the next part governing the appointment and promotion of firefighters is the exact same thing.
Okay.
So pages 14 through pages 14 through 21 are exactly the same except for those differences that I pointed out. So starting on page 22, part 6 are the appeals, and we've kind of already talked about this. Hey, I applied to be a police or fire officer. I got rejected for some reason. I don't think it was right. This is the process of how that applicant can appeal that process. Okay, so look, you let City Hall know, you let the Human Resources Department know. They will coordinate with the Civil Service Commission, and then there can be there's a hearing. There could be a pre-hearing statement by the applicant, and again, the applicant has to do certain things, and if the applicant doesn't do those things, they can basically have their rights waived for the appeal process. And this kind of just outlines the hearing. Again, the commission shall conduct a hearing. And then it just outlines that the commission's going to have to render a written decision within 45 days. So within 45 days of the last hearing before the commission, they need to say, hey, look, the city did the right thing, or no, we think you have a case. Where did I miss it? I might have to go back real fast, but administration record keeping, so it just talks about excluding the meeting minutes and appeals. All the information in regards to applications, testing results, interviews, human resources is going to maintain that. All right, we're not going to make poor Miss Gail Brown keep records, keep filing cabinets in her home. Okay, so our human resources office will do that. And again, everything that is confidential will be protected under right to know laws, ADA, HIPAA standards. So, you know, in going back though, and I don't know how I missed it, but I did because I have it right here from Jeanette. So one of the things that upon legal review that was pointed out, and Jeanette, correct me if I'm wrong, this will be under the veteran preference, but where am I missing it at? Okay, and we will get this to you. The exact wording, but one of the things that came up when this was reviewed through the legal department. So this will be listed under automatic eligibility disqualifications. Okay, was basically that, and I'm going to summarize this, but I will get you this wording, the exact wording to you. And Jeanette, come kick me if I'm wrong, but basically, one of the things that the legal department has seen is that there are military personnel who have been discharged for disability. And these military personnel are now applying to government jobs and they're not disclosing their military service. And they're not claiming veteran preference points. And they're getting jobs as police and firefighters, but they're also claiming a disability from the military that would kind of disqualify them for the same job. And the reason that we don't know about it is because unless they submit a DD-214, we will never know that they were in the military. All right, so we're basically saying, hey, look, you got to disclose, if you're in the military, you got to disclose this. All right, we got to know why you were discharged.
They have to show you the paperwork.
Yeah,
right?
they have to show us the paperwork. And basically it just basically says that, hey, look, if you admit the fact that you were in the military and you were, one, either dishonorably discharged, or two, discharged for a disability, that gives us the way to say,
On the liability.
yeah, and to just say, like, look, like, you should have been disqualified from the start. Like, how can you claim from the United States military that you can't do a job that, or you can't perform some type of physical thing that we're requiring with our jobs? So am I basically correct in my summarization of that? Okay. But we will get you guys that language. I will add it into these notes. After we're done with this, I'll resend out the draft. I'll take out that yellow writing, which again was just a little bit of tweaking from the legal department. And I will get that over to you. So that being said, Those are the updated rules for the Civil Service Commission. The next process is to move these rules out of committee and to go before mayor and council for consideration for a vote. Again, I'd be happy to talk with. I had spoken with Councilman Green, Councilman Gibson. I hope Councilman Davis is okay, because he said he would be here, and I hope everything's okay with it.
He and I both got our schedules.
Ah, okay, all right. Well, as long as he's okay, life happens. Yeah, so other than that, that's basically everything. Again, we worked on these rules with the Civil Service Commission, with HR, with the police department, with the legal department. So we're fairly confident that this is a good product that you guys can stand behind and move us forward.
And you have a packet for Councilman Davis, right?
Yeah, I stole his. I'll give it back to him. So, and there was a technical glitch where Miss Brown wasn't able to print out, so I gave her my copy.
Okay, okay.
But other than that, if you have no other questions or concerns, I want to thank you for your time and allowing me to speak with you.
Thank you for your report.
Oh, anytime. That's what I'm here for.
Thank you. Very comprehensive,
Yes.
long overdue. Thank you for your help. HR, fire, receiver, lawyers, solicitors, police, and probably other municipalities who are updating their civil service rules, because I know that's a big thing all the way up to the lieutenant governor's office, that there's not a lot of consistency across the state. Thank you for your questions and comments as well. The only thing we have remaining here is public comment. No comment? Pleasure meeting you, Ms. Gail Brown. Thanks for attending.
And Mayor, not public comment, but I will be asking you guys, I would like to move, we spoke maybe a little over a year ago about one of the city ordinances regarding the fire department, how the current city ordinances still show the 5 volunteer fire departments as the city's fire department, and I want to move that more forward. So just look forward to another one of these committee meetings in the very near future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, seeing that we've exhausted our agenda, I'm just going to hit this gavel and say,